All right, let's get started. So, I'm Chris, and this is Carol, I'm also known as Kristen, but if you guys know me from my TikTok, you probably know me as Chris Frogs. I wanted to do a podcast with my best friend about movies so that we can just talk about movies because that's how we bonded. We met in the third grade. And one of the first movies we watched together was a Marx Brothers movie called Duck Soup. And I showed it to Carol, and I remember you really hated it.
I was determined not to like it.
The part I thought was hilarious that she didn't was when Harpo Marx put his feet into the lemonade vendor's lemonade while he wasn't watching. And I thought that was really funny. But Carol really was disgusted by that.
Yeah, some people have a fixation with feet and some people don't.
I think I might move your mic a little bit closer.
I'm definitely one that doesn't, just for the record.
So what I didn't realize about Duck Soup is that the time period that it was filmed in 1933 was the year that Hitler took power. I'm sorry to just put a damper on this conversation, but I read part of Harpo Marx's memoir about filming that movie, which is about a country called Fredonia. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? And it's about a incompetent leader, Rufus T. Firefly, who was played by Groucho Marx, that just puts a bunch of really incompetent people in power. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's really relevant to today, which is kind of scary. But the scariest thing about Duck Soup is while they were filming it, Harpo said he was really determined to make a really good, really excellent, probably make more sense if I'm looking at you.
Like sneaking glances. I'm like, wait, what?
I keep looking at myself on the camera because I'm so used to TikTok. Anyways.
Keep in mind, you did give me 24 hours to tell me I'd be in front of a camera. I was not happy about that.
You know, I'm going to move it. This is so difficult. How do people do this? Okay, this is our first time making a podcast, so be patient with us. So Harpo talks about in his memoir what it was like filming Duck Soup, and he was really determined to give a good performance in Duck Soup. And it wasn't because of like the script or the producer or anything like that, or that it was one of their first really big movies. It was because of Hitler, and Hitler had not taken power at the beginning of them filming. So in 1933, after Hindenburg died, Harpo says that they stopped filming. Everyone on the set stopped. They all gathered around and they turned the little radio they had on, and they listened to Hitler give his speech because Hindenburg had just died, and now he was the absolute dictator of Germany. They had previously boycotted all Jewish businesses. Hitler wanted to deport all the Jewish citizens from Germany. Does that kind of sound scarily familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, history rhymes. But anyways, that's why he wanted to give a good performance, because the Marx Brothers obviously were Jewish. And he knew about Hitler before other people did. But everybody on the set was like, well, you know, Hitler's saying all these scary things, but he's not going to do them. He's just talking.
Also scarily familiar.
Yeah, you're overreacting. Anyways, that's why I want to do this podcast, to take a deeper look at the movies that we watch and just see what it says about us as a society, what their cultural impacts are, or what they might be. Because today we're going to do Weapons. It's a new movie. It came out in August of this year. I haven't looked up the IMDb, but it has fairly good reviews. It has some actors that I don't know, really not familiar with. But I heard about it from a podcast, and I also saw a clip on TikTok, and that's what got me interested, was Aunt Gladys. That's my favorite character. But anyways, let's get into the movie. So Weapons is about a classroom of kids, 18 kids, 17 of them all go missing on the same day. So let's start with the intro. We start with a voiceover of a child explaining what happened. It's a normal day, and a new teacher, Justine Grady, comes to her classroom, and there are no kids. I think they said it was a Wednesday. It's just like a minor detail I remember. She was the only teacher whose students were missing. There were 17 of 18 kids in this third grade classroom. That was when we first met in third grade. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah, we're old.
One boy is the only one that comes to class that day, Alex Lilly. The night before at 2:17 a.m., all of the kids just walked out their front door. And I noticed in this movie, the number 17 keeps repeating. Have you noticed that? There are 18 kids, 17 go missing, 2:17. Do you think there's anything significant with the number 17 in this movie?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. You had mentioned earlier when we talked off screen about The Shining.
Yeah, so 217 is actually the room that Danny goes into where he sees that old woman and it kind of traumatizes him.
Yeah, you said there's a lot of nods to a lot of classic films in this.
Yeah, I definitely picked that up. And the interesting thing about The Shining is it's about Stephen King's struggle with alcoholism. And I think that's a central theme to this movie. There are a lot of characters that we'll see that have addiction issues. Anyways, as the kids run into the darkness, Beware of the Darkness by George Harrison plays as the kids all run out of their front door. And the child narrator, mentions that the doorbell cameras catch the kids running into the darkness and their alarms were tripped. I noticed that cameras are something that are continuously nodded to in this movie. It's a theme that also keeps pointing up, and how we use surveillance of our own, like we're in a surveillance state kind of our own making, but it doesn't keep us safe. These kids ran out of their own home. They're not we always are worried about like a threat from outside of the home when the most dangerous thing to a child is a threat within the home.
The interesting thing that makes this, or about this scene, I would say that makes this movie quite much a movie, is that none of the parents seem to go after their kids. I mean, when a house alarm goes off, you think the first thing you do is go check on your kids.
I think the only character that we really see that we know did that was Archer, because we do see him running out, but we'll get to him later.
Okay.
He is one of the characters that has his own chapter. Anyways, then the narrator said, this is where the story really starts, and we meet Justine. I noticed something else that was repeated in the movie. When we meet a new character, we see them from the back.
I noticed that too.
I thought that was an interesting stylistic choice. Not sure exactly what that means, but
at first I thought it was saying something about that character's personality and who they might be in the movie, like what they might have done or not done. But it seems to be something that's repetitive throughout the film.
Yeah. I think that was, I don't know if that was a stylistic choice to show them from the back. Like, we also really don't know these characters until we get to the chapter about them. We just kind of heard about them from other characters. Like first Justine, we heard about her from the narrator. We don't really know Miss Gandy or what she's all about until we meet her. And we meet her at a school meeting about grief. And I thought that was also a very interesting beginning, because it really reminds me of how schools handle tragedies like school shootings. And I think that that's what they were going for. They had the little memorial outside of the school. Did you kind of pick up on that too, that maybe that's what they were trying to get at with the 17 kids that went missing? 217 is also, I think, how many votes in Congress they needed to ban assault weapons in 2022 after the Uvalde shooting.
That's interesting, because later in the film, in a dream, which we will get to later, is a weapon with those numbers on it hovering above a building.
Yeah, the AR-15.
Yeah.
Okay, so during the meeting, Archer, we don't know that this is Archer yet, gets upset because I think it's like a counselor or something, yells about how they're talking about abandonment and how anger is a valid emotion and grief. But what Archer wants is he doesn't want to be talking about feelings. He doesn't want to be talking about any of that touchy-feely stuff. Archer wants solutions, and I think that's something understandable, but we don't know what's going on yet, and he demands that Miss Gandy speaks because he thinks that the secret of why all the children ran away is her fault. And I think that that's also something that happens with school shootings, is we look for a scapegoat, or in this case, a witch, and she becomes the center of everyone's anger because everyone needs a place to put their anger, someone to blame. Archer doesn't know anything that's happening. He doesn't understand why his child ran out, but he wants to know why, and he wants to find out where he is. So after the meeting, Justine goes to a liquor store, and upon coming into the liquor store, I noticed that a character we meet later, James, is standing outside and asks for money for a bus ticket. And she tells him she doesn't have any money. She goes inside, she buys her liquor, she buys a bunch of bottles of liquor, and gets a phone call. Someone harasses her on the phone. So it's sort of setting the stage that Justine is the target of everyone's anger. She being
also
blamed.
Goes through a lot of liquor in this film.
Yeah, Justine definitely has a problem with alcohol. She's definitely addicted to it, or an alcoholic. I kind of don't like labeling people by their addictions, but she definitely has a problem with alcoholism.
It seems to be a coping mechanism throughout the film. It's not just, I mean, that's what she turns to in really drastic measures.
Yeah. I think this meeting really stressed her out. She had to be escorted out because the crowd was so angry at her. And that's what, right, she turned to immediately was alcohol to numb that pain. And I think that's another thing that this movie is getting at is how we deal with grief, what our coping mechanisms are. And each character kind of has a different coping mechanism to deal with their grief. So after the meeting, there's a bunch of stuff that happens that leads her to go outside. Someone knocks on her door, someone rings her doorbell, and she finds that someone vandalized her car by painting witch on it, which is a really interesting choice of something to paint on someone's car. I think it's obviously a very obvious attempt to show that they're on a witch hunt. They're looking for someone to blame rather than fix this problem and figure out what's really going on.
If later we do end up covering who paints her car,
oh yeah,
I do have a thought of who I thought it was originally, and it wasn't that person.
So who did you think it was to begin with?
Donna.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. I can see that.
Because in the liquor store later, there's another scene.
Try to talk more into
In the liquor store, there's another scene with Donna later. In that scene, she gets attacked by Donna, and it just led me to think that maybe since they have some other personal issues going on that will be covered later, that maybe that was what led her to vandalize the car, but it wasn't the case.
Yeah. So the next scene we see Justine is she's talking to Marcus, the principal, and he's telling her to keep her distance from the kids and keep her distance from what happened because a lot of people are still really emotional and angry. And he tells her that Alex is okay, but she's not allowed to speak to Alex about what happened. Marcus tells her that she is overstepping her professional boundaries by she hugged a crying little boy. And she's like, I hugged a crying little boy, so sue me. She's being punished by being a caring person, I think. And I think that was a really important aspect of Justine's character, that she's just trying to do her best and being caring towards children. She really actually cares and notices when her kids aren't acting normal, when there's something up.
I think she goes to the wall and back for Alex alone, as well as her other students. Mm-hmm. But I do think she did cross a line by putting him in her car and driving him home the day that all the kids were missing. I mean, I do agree that, caring and, their feelings and talking about what's going on when behaviors change and noticing that in a child or one of your students. But when it comes to putting a kid in the back of your car when a bunch of kids are missing, I wouldn't have done that with the parents at the state of mind they're at. So.
I don't know if it was it mentioned that it was Alex? I didn't catch that.
I think it was, but I mean, that was the impression I got.
I just find it interesting that so many parents find Justine to be suspicious, just her caring nature to be suspicious. And that says a lot about us as a society, that we are really suspicious of caring people.
Yeah.
And then one thing she said that really stuck with me is she just said, it's just that we're the only ones left. And her and Alex are really the only ones that can understand what they, this survivor's guilt that they both have. Why were they the only ones left? I mean, Alex knows and he can't talk about it, but Justine doesn't. And she feels isolated and she feels alone in this.
She needs some closure too.
Yeah. Anyways, there's a scene with the vandalism. The police officer doesn't really seem to care. He says it's just kids. He kind of just dismisses the harassment she's going through. So to cope with that, she meets Paul. Well, we don't know who Paul is, but it is hinted that Paul is a cop. We also don't know what the relationship it is, but I have some theories about how they met. I think they met at AA because it's definitely hinted that they both have issues with alcoholism. Paul is very concerned about Justine's drinking, and Justine also pressures him into drinking. He says that he would like to have a Coke, and she kind of makes fun of him and gets him to drink, which I think wasn't okay. She pushed his boundaries.
I think it's also insensitive to meet at a bar when the
other person's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was kind of insensitive to her. He doesn't really take her concerns seriously about the harassment she's facing. He tells her not everyone's thinking about her. But, I mean, there are quite a few people that do seem to be thinking about her a lot. I mean, they called her to harass her and blame her for what happened. Archer is very focused on her and why so many kids went missing from her classroom.
I think there was another way he could have said it too, you may be internalizing the situation, which he wasn't, but the way he said it is it's all in your head. Yeah. That's just not sensitive enough of the situation.
Yeah, Paul was kind of insensitive, and I mean, he's kind of a crappy character. We'll get to that later, how much he sucks.
Yeah.
So Paul stays overnight. She drives him, I think he drives her home or she drives him home. I can't remember. Anyways, they leave. They part ways. I think she drives him home because later she goes to, she follows Alex home from school and starts kind of peering into his house, which is a little bit of a boundary violation there. But she notices all the windows are covered with newspaper, which I thought was really weird. And what I thought was that maybe his family didn't want to have visits from the press, so that's why they covered their windows. I didn't. That too. I had no idea that there was a witch living there. We'll find that out later. Anyways, she notices soup littered all over the table, which immediately when I saw the soup, I was like, okay, soup is a food that a child can easily make. And then we see the parents are just sitting on the couch. I'm like, that's really weird. What is going on with them? Like, who just sits in the dark looking straight ahead?
You can kind of already tell that they're just not well kept. They're just sitting there in dishevelment.
Again,
we were in the house, and Justine was peeking through the windows, and let's move your mic over. Justine was peeking through the windows, and she saw the parents.
Yeah, so Justine is peeking through the windows, and she notices the parents are just kind of sitting at the living room and looking straight ahead. And it's really weird. There's soup littered all over the tables. The first thing that I thought when I saw the soup is that Alex has been taking care of himself because soup is something a child can make really easily.
Yeah. So she was getting suspicious, and she was already suspicious because of his behavioral changes at school.
Yep. Okay, so the next scene, Justine goes to the liquor store again because no one's listening to her. She's really, really stressed out.
And unvalidated.
Yep. And she's confronted by Donna, who we also don't know who that is yet. And Donna yells at her and says, "Look what you did. You got him drunk." Blaming Justine for Paul's behavior, which I thought was unfair. Even though there are some things Justine probably shouldn't have done, like Paul set a boundary with her that he wasn't going to drink, and she pressured him into it, and also met somebody who has issues with alcohol at a bar.
Well, it makes you think either Donna's going through some stuff, or she's just a jealous lover, or she's suspicious of Justine and their friendship.
Yeah. Okay, so that night, Justine has a nightmare, and I really pay attention to dreams when they're in movies because they say a lot about the characters. In the dream, the lights are off. She's in school. All of the kids are in the classroom with their heads down. And on the whiteboard behind her, it says parasites, which comes up multiple times in this movie. And then also whales, which I don't know if that has any kind of significance whatsoever, or if it was just something they put in.
I wonder with these dreams why the whole town seems to be getting them different dreams. Like that the nature of these dreams, which you'll figure out later, you just wonder why everybody's getting them.
I kind of wonder if, because in both her and Archer's dream, we see Aunt Gladys. And I wonder if Aunt Gladys can kind of control dreams, maybe. I'm not really sure. Because how would they know about her?
Point. Yeah.
So in the dream, Alex's head pops up and he's wearing like kind of a zombie makeup. But now after watching the movie all the way through, I realized that the makeup he's wearing is exactly like Aunt Gladys's. Messy, kind of disheveled looking. He's got a messy red lip, no lip liner. Gladys doesn't believe in that. She wakes up and there's a jump scare of a woman wearing scary makeup looking down at her from the ceiling, which we learn later. That is Aunt Gladys. So
I was worried I was not going to be able to sleep that night.
Yeah, Aunt Gladys is watching it. You know what? Aunt Gladys can come to my house. I love her. I want to ask her a lot of questions. I would like to interview Aunt Gladys. So Justine is now more suspicious of Alex. So she goes to his house to watch and see what's going on. And she brings alcohol with her, which causes her to fall asleep. And in the night, a woman is seen leaving the house with something held over her head, which I couldn't figure out what it was in the dark, but it's a pair of scissors. She goes in the car and then cuts off a lock of Justine's hair, which we don't know what that's for yet.
Yeah, I thought Justine was going to bite it in that scene.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, oh my God, Justine, what are you doing? So let's wrap up Justine's character. I think that the parents just were looking for someone to blame to make themselves feel better about the situation and find closure rather than looking inward and trying to figure out why their kids left. It's a literal witch hunt. rather than looking for an actual cause of why 17 kids would just run off into the middle of the night.
Yeah, why not point fingers at the nice teacher who went above and beyond for her class, right?
Also, I think another narrative thing that the witch being painted on her car adds is that it lets us know that something supernatural is happening rather than coming out of nowhere. I really hate it when there's a supernatural cause to a mystery and they don't give any hints that there's magic involved. It's just like, by the way, it's all magic. It feels like a cop-out when that happens.
Yeah, at this point I wasn't suspecting that there was something else going on. I thought it was Donna still. So I wasn't there yet.
Yeah, I knew about Gladys before I started the movie, and I knew that she was a witch, so that kind of colored my expectations, I guess, a little bit.
I had no idea going in what this was about. I didn't read the description. I thought at first it was alien abductions, and then I was like, okay, it's not aliens. What's with the creepy lip liner look? All sorts of things flying through my head.
And the way the kids ran out of the house, too, I think points to a supernatural aspect of the movie. Okay, so let's talk about Archer. So we meet Archer. He's at home. He's sleeping. His wife kind of just tells him that she's going to work. And he gets up and he watches footage of his son running away over and over again, trying to understand what happens. It sort of seems like that's his coping mechanism, is to just, like, he's going detective mode. Anyways, he is a construction supervisor. And one of his workers tells him he ordered the wrong paint color, which was red paint. It was supposed to be green or something. And then he apologizes and said that was his bad. He was distracted. And it's I think a sign that his his obsession with what happened to Matthew is affecting his work. Like, how could you work after your child has been missing and no one's giving you answers? Anyways, he goes to the police and they don't really, the police chief is, by the way, Donna's father. We find out later. And also Paul's boss. But he talks to the police about the investigation. He wants them to look into Justine, which they're refusing to do. But he's suspicious of her because she has a DUI. Again, alcoholism is blamed for why the children went missing. But I don't understand how, like, her having a DUI could mean, like, she caused all these kids to run out of the classroom when she was a witch or something.
Yeah, and also the intrusiveness of just, like, investigating personally a teacher and then just pointing blame at all the flaws or any struggles somebody might have. It's definitely a witch hunt, like you were saying earlier. They're gunning for her.
Yeah, he kind of has problems with boundaries, too, by looking into Justine and kind of digging into her past. He's a vigilante investigator, but also another thing about Archer is that he is very observant in ways other characters in this movie just aren't. Where how Justine notices her student's emotional state, Archer notices things that other characters don't, like where all the kids were running to because he's a construction manager or supervisor or whatever. He understands kind of how the town is laid out, and other characters don't have that perspective. And I thought that was interesting, that he kind of brings something to this mystery that other characters don't, and how he helps solve it.
Yeah, I do like how he went over the video camera footage again and again and again.
Yeah. Looking for something that he missed. But there's a missing piece of the puzzle that he doesn't have and helps him solve the mystery. And that was actually Justine, but not in the way he thought. And then it's revealed that Archer is the one at the school meeting that had the outburst. And it's hinted very strongly he's the one that painted Witch on her car because of the red paint in his trunk. He has a nightmare. He's sleeping. And at 2:17, he sees Matthew running away. He follows Matthew around towards his house, which it's not really, it kind of tricks us because he wakes up, so we're not really sure if he's dreaming or not. And I think that's something that's really strong. Like, if you're going through grieving, like you're going through grief, dreams are really powerful mechanisms of showing your state of mind and how you feel about a situation. As he's following Matthew as he runs away, an AR-15 appears above the house with the numbers 217, like an alarm clock. And then he goes back inside, finds Matthew in his bed, and starts trying to talk to him. And that really broke my heart when he's like, I don't say it enough, but I love you, and I feel it all the time.
Yeah, it was gut-wrenching. It was just like you could really feel the emotion in that scene. Another thing about that scene that really got to me was how slow and, like, distorted they played it out. Like, the dream was very, obviously, like, surrealistic and dreamlike, but it almost had, like, Donnie Darko vibes to it. to me. Like when Donnie Darko sees Frank the Rabbit in his dreams, it was very distorted and creepy, especially when like at the end of the scene when he runs into the house and then all of a sudden no lip liner. Like you're like, wait, what
all
the
of a
heck?
sudden we see Gladys is in the bed.
Yeah, she's right there. Like it just flips you out of the scene, but all the way leading up until then, it's just all this eerie distortion, and then all of a sudden it goes straight into like startling.
Yeah, we don't know who this creepy woman is that is really bad at putting on red lipstick, but we keep seeing her, and we figure there's something about her.
There's something going on there.
Okay, so then he's seen again trying to figure out what happened to Matthew. He's drawing on a map. He's trying to figure out where all the kids are running to. He goes to another parent's home and asks if he can see footage of their daughter. He asks the wife. She says no. He waits for the father to come home, Gary, who was played by Justin Long. I know you clocked that.
Yeah, he was in Jeepers Creepers.
He's also in The Barbarian.
Oh yeah, that too. But like Jeepers Creepers was definitely a spooky film from my childhood where I was just like totally freaked out by it. And it was interesting that there was a nod to him in this film for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that they included him in such a small part. But they watch the footage of their daughter running away. Anyways, he starts counting pavement blocks and adds this to his map. While driving, he sees Justine and he confronts her. And they get into an argument. And one thing that stuck out to me about their argument is he said you can't play victim all the time. He's literally victimizing her. He's trying to minimize that he's bullying Justine.
Yeah,
he wrote witch on her car and he knows he did that.
I don't know how maybe that was just his rage cycle and his cycle of grief, but I don't know how that would have solved any of the problems he was going through. So.
It's interesting that he had that outburst about anger and he was angry.
Yeah.
And that didn't occur to him because he is cut off from his emotions. Like how he was telling his son that he feels like he loves him all the time, but he doesn't tell him that enough. I think that's a kind of an important thing between fathers and sons is a lot of fathers don't really show their emotions to their children, especially their sons. It's just because of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So anyways, as he's fighting with Justine, we see Marcus, and this is really the part of the movie that cinched it for me that this was a supernatural movie. Marcus is running towards him. He looks awful. His eyes are bulging out of his head. He's covered in blood and black stuff. And he jumps on Justine, starts strangling her, and Archer pulls him off. So that was the end of the Archer chapter. A little bit more about Archer here's kind of my takeaway from Archer, is that he doesn't trust authority. He doesn't trust the police to fix the problem, but he also wants someone to blame. And he is cut off from his emotions. He's afraid of vulnerability. He has the outburst at the school and at the meeting. He blames Justine. He bottles up his emotions and sadness, and he copes with them by trying to fix everything around him.
One thing I do like about Archer, though, is even yes, he blamed Justine up to a point, but the minute he realized she is not at fault, he apologizes.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents or characters in movies like this, they just double down.
Yeah, he does. When he gets new information, he does admit he's wrong. He changes his mind, which is, I think that is a good redeeming part about Archer. Okay, now we're going to move on to my least favorite character, which is Paul.
Oh, God.
Paul is such a douche. So we learn that Paul is a cop. He's on the phone with his maybe wife. Not really sure of their relation. Yeah, Donna, and she is concerned about his drinking, which adds another layer to what Justine did. Donna is out on the town for a meeting, business trip or something for 3 days. We find out that Donna's dad is also Paul's boss. That's another layer of stress for him. Donna asks if they're going to go to a meeting, and she mentions that he is struggling with not drinking and says he should go to basically an AA meeting, and he tells her he's fine, which he is not. He sees a man start running away, and he starts to follow him. We find out this man's name is James. He asks James if he has any needles on him, and he says no. Paul sticks his hands in his pocket and immediately gets stabbed. He punches him in anger and is caught by his dash cam. He lets James go to avoid accountability and then tells his boss what he did. The boss says, as long as James doesn't say anything, he'll be fine and the footage will be overwritten. Later that day, he meets Justine at a bar. So he's had a really stressful day. And then he meets Justine, who pressures him into drinking. But like you were talking to me earlier, do you remember what you said about the fact that they had sex?
Yeah. So basically, he gets stabbed with this needle. He may or may not know if he's clean or not. We don't really know. Yeah. and he has sex with her. And on that phone call he had with Donna prior to even getting stabbed with a needle, she had been talking about planning her cycles to get pregnant with him.
Yeah, so
I think those were both really dick moves on his part to like.
He's selfish.
Yeah, he's just awful.
Yeah, and we get clearly like Paul is a very flawed character. He mostly acts in self-interest.
He doesn't care about the safety or feelings of others.
Yep. Justine tells him, it tries to get him to drink when she pressures him, which was not a good thing for her to do. But he still gives in. And then he also lied to her. I caught that he lied to her about being with Donna, because that's one thing she says to Donna is that, oh, I thought you were broken up. That's what he said.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Yeah. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Way to go, Paul.
Fuck Paul.
I know.
That's our dick of the episode, Paul.
We don't like Paul.
We should pick a favorite character and a least favorite character. Paul is my least favorite. You already know who my favorite character is.
Yes. I'll back yours because she's the most interesting.
She is. I love her. I want her to be my aunt. Okay, so we meet James. That's our next character, who's smoking something. I didn't really write a lot about James because I feel like he's not that important to the plot. I got bored.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like there was too much. Like, I don't understand the significance of James or why he was in the movie so much.
It was just to antagonize Paul. I don't know.
Maybe it was just to show what like addiction can do to somebody. Like, James does not have a job. He lives in a tent, and his entire motivation in life is to get more drugs. Kind of like how the zombies or weapons or whatever you want to call her minions act. They only act for Gladys.
I do struggle with the scene where he was trying to say he was going to get a job, to whether he wanted more drugs or not. He was really struggling in that moment.
Yeah, and maybe in that moment he did mean it.
On the cell phone. Yeah, whether he meant it or not, it was still, like, whether he was trying to better himself or he was just falling back into familiar patterns. It was really, really hard for him, and it was really hard to watch for him. So
yeah. So he gets into the altercation with Paul. But I think the main thing I took away from James's little scene is that I feel like James was only put into the movie to basically break into Alex's home and find out what's going on in there and then tell Paul.
Get Paul to the house.
Yeah. And then we see that the altercation, Paul gets stabbed with needles again.
3 this time.
Yeah.
We've upgraded.
And before that, he sees Gladys in the woods, and it's probably because he was in her house and she knows that he saw, and she wants to get him. And that was really creepy. She like waves really creepily to him and makes him run away.
The interesting thing though is at this point is when he asks if the person who's been stabbing him with needles has a disease.
Like, yeah, now it occurs to him, like, do you have AIDS? He's like, I don't know.
He's like, do you have any other diseases that might be dangerous to me? It's like, you've been stabbed 4 times now.
Yeah, maybe you should get checked. So I have a little bit about James, is that he doesn't really have much to his character. I don't think James is not a very well-rounded character. We don't really know a lot about him. I don't feel like he really added much to the movie, to be honest. Yeah. It does add another like theme, that addiction is a really strong theme in this movie, but yeah, I didn't really care for that part of the movie. It kind of was boring.
Yeah, it was filler.
And maybe it was like a metaphor for what Gladys does to her victims. She represents addiction, vice, and controls her victims to act on her behalf. They have no other goals or will or anything. And that could be why James is such an empty character.
He could have also been there for the struggle in the house later.
Yeah.
Another person to be a barrier to get to where people need to go.
Yeah. So now we meet Marcus, and this is one of my favorite chapters. So we start Marcus's chapter with Marcus in the grocery store, and he is on the phone with Justine, who is very upset about Alex. She thinks there's something wrong with Alex. She just saw his parents are sitting in the house in the dark, and he tells her that he's not authorized to make a visit. So she is waving the red flag that there is something clearly not right about Alex and his home situation. But the system is not allowing Marcus to take action. But he does care. Cut to Marcus's office. The receptionist tells him that he has a meeting, and in comes Gladys. And we meet our iconic queen, my favorite character in the entire movie. You already know how I feel about her, but...
Long may she reign.
Yes. I will describe Gladys for our listeners. Gladys has a short, red, wavy wig with baby bangs, icon. She has never heard of lip liner, clearly, or doesn't believe in it. I don't know which, but her very badly applied lipstick is traveling across her face.
Hey, we don't know how old she is. She could have been long before lip liner existed.
I feel like lip liner has been around for a while.
So is she.
She doesn't have an excuse. YouTube exists for a reason. There are makeup tutorials on how to put on a proper red lip, but she does not care about harsh lines. She wants a soft red, fuzzy red lip. Feathery. Makes her look a little crazy. And you know what? Good for her. She also wears these large frame glasses. As I work in optical, I recognize a gradient tint. I have a sort of relationship with those. They're really difficult to do, and I hate them sometimes. But I also love them, like Gladys. It is a very dated look. They were popular in the 80s, which kind of gives us gave me an idea of Gladys's age, is that she is from a different time. She does not care about popular culture or how to properly dress for 2025. She is wearing her favorite clothes, probably from the 80s. She's wearing the big grandma necklace. It looked like a really bright, like, tracksuit or something. That's probably what Gladys is stuck on, is the 1980s, and she's just going to be herself. She doesn't care how weird she comes across.
She gives no fucks.
Exactly. She is my favorite old hag. There's a subreddit called Old Hag Fashion, and Gladys would be their favorite. Her outfits are my favorite. Anyways.
She's an icon. We'll go with that.
Okay. So you agree with me.
Yes.
So Marcus is like, have we met? Which, like, if you met Gladys, do you think you would forget it? Because I certainly would remember her. And Gladys is like, no, we haven't met. He's like, good. She then tells him that she's Alex's aunt and that his mom is her baby sister, which that kind of raised a bit of a red flag because Gladys is clearly much older than that. The actress who plays Gladys, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the actress, but she is in her 70s, which would be a little bit too old to be the sister of somebody that's probably I'm going to say in their 30s, maybe 40s. That's kind of pushing it for me. So I feel like she's a little bit too old to be Alex's mother's sister. One thing I did see is somebody said that there are some inconsistencies in how Gladys is related to Alex. And I looked for that, and I didn't find anything that she said that would nod to that directly. Like her saying that she's actually their great aunt, that Alex's grandma was her sister or something like that. She never says that.
Did you say that there's no one else around to take care of her? That was all I remember. Like, no other family member can take her in. Like, the parents are gone.
Yep, and I have that down in here when we get to Alex. But I was watching for that because Gladys is a liar. She is really good at lying. She spits out lies constantly, does not even acknowledge them, and doesn't care. She is a manipulator. So, anyways, Gladys explains her relation to Alex, which is that she is Alex's aunt and his mom is her baby sister. But Marcus stresses very strongly to Gladys that he needs to speak to Alex's parents, and she says that both of them are very sick. She's taking care of them. Marcus expresses concern for this, so the excuse she uses cracked me up. She said, "It's nothing serious, just a touch of consumption." That's tuberculosis. And you can tell that Marcus is starting to get suspicious, but he doesn't know really what to suspect. He just knows that there's something weird going on here with Aunt Gladys.
And his asked for clarification on consumption.
Yeah, he pointed that out. Like, what the fuck? People are still getting consumption? And she's like, well, whatever. They're sick. Let's move on. So
he was getting some red flags, I agree.
Yeah, and Marcus is he's got his antenna up about Aunt Gladys, but she's an old woman. Like, what could she possibly do, right? Like, she's good. She's weird. She's eccentric. But she's also good at kind of hiding her true intentions. Because who knows about witchcraft? So Marcus,
I think her hiding intentions must just be the lip liner.
I mean, if a woman walks in and she's never heard of lip liner, I don't know. Is that a red flag, do you think?
Possibly. I don't
Red
know.
lipstick, no lip liner, and I guess that's like a sign that you really don't care what other people think, which can be a good thing or a bad thing.
It could be bold.
Yeah. I mean, I would never do it just
Me
because
neither.
it doesn't look good. When I wear a red lip, I want it to be clean. I want it to have sharp lines. That's how a red lip should be worn, or you look like a clown. And I think that's what they were going for with her. She kind of looks like a clown. She's got the bright colors.
Well, she's supposed to put people off a little bit, yet still maintain a facade for a while.
Yeah, I think she puts.
Ready.
You're right. I think she puts people off by her appearance, but it's harmless, right? She's just a little weird. There's nothing really like what she's weird, maybe a little messy, but
I
like
think she enjoys, putting people off a little bit at the same time.
Yeah, it's disarming. She's an old lady. She's allowed to be eccentric, and then it turns out she's actually a witch, which I'm sure most people aren't aware of in this universe. So, anyways, Marcus and his husband. It cuts to Marcus and his husband. Let's start over. So the next scene is Marcus and his husband are at home.
This is my least favorite scene. I just have to say off the bat, I cannot handle this scene.
The gore was a little much, but this is unfortunately I love this scene.
Of course,
except for the gore part, I think it was the best scene in the entire movie. It was handled so well. I'll explain why I think that. But Marcus and his husband are at home watching TV. It's such a cozy scene. You see his husband is preparing some delicious snacks like hot dogs, some junk food, comfort food. They're ready to settle in for just a wonderful evening together. There's cookies, just a nice cozy afternoon on the day off that Marcus probably desperately needs as the principal of this school that just had this terrible tragedy happen. They're also watching, I clocked this, that they're watching a documentary about a parasitic fungus called cordyceps. Have you heard of that before?
No.
So cordyceps is a fungus that takes over ants, and I think it can take over frogs, sorry. It can take over frogs and all other invertebrates, and it can control them to climb to a high point, and then it puts out spores to take over more hosts, like Gladys.
Why do I feel that head pat on the frog was the reason you chose this movie for our podcast?
No, I mean, I do love frogs, but I was a little bit obsessed with cordyceps when I first heard about it. It's just really fascinating, and I think there's a movie on HBO about it, Making Zombies. I thought that was an interesting choice. It's clearly a nod to what Gladys is and how she operates. So the doorbell rings, and it's Gladys. She's frantic at the door, talking about she missed up her bus schedule. We know later that she's lying, but they don't. But Marcus tries to set a boundary and not allow her into his house. He really values his home work-life balance. He is trying to work on that, even though, like you pointed out to me before, that Marcus was on the phone with Justine while he was grocery shopping. It should have been a time between him and his husband.
Yes.
He has difficulty setting boundaries, but he's trying.
And he also is starting to get some more red flags about her the more she pushes in this scene.
Yeah, and I think his husband invalidates that because he doesn't know Gladys. He just sees this poor old lady that's huffing and puffing and talking about how she's going to collapse. She's so theatrical. I love her so much.
He almost to the point where he thinks his husband's being a little rude.
Yeah, his husband's like, we can't be rude to this poor old woman, and invites her into their house. And, like a vampire, any sort of...
Parasite?
Any sort of parasite. Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting thing, with vampires and different magical beings, they need to have permission to enter your home. And consent isn't really important. They can trick and coerce their way into your home like a police officer. And once they get in, you can't get them out. You're already trapped. And that's exactly what happens with Gladys. She barges her way into the home, and the thing that cracks me up is she immediately starts complimenting their decor. She's like, oh, I bet that's an original, blah, blah, blah.
It's very manipulative. She's trying to, appease them and get in further and further into the
Disarm
house.
them with her with her over-the-top behavior. But it doesn't... Marcus is still... He's sus of her. What is she up to?
Well, and she's also extending her stay by, walking further into the room and looking at the decor and then getting the water.
Yep. She's slowly pushing boundaries more and more until there's no going back. right? But like again, she's just this old lady. Like,
But
what?
it's surprising even for an old lady how far she pushes those boundaries.
She's an old lady. I think you can get away with it socially by being an old woman, right?
Yeah, and once somebody's in your house, it's a lot harder to kick them out.
Exactly. And I think she knows that. She's done this before. She's clearly got this. She did forget one essential item, which was a bowl. You think she would carry that in her gigantic bag? Her gigantic Mary Poppins bag of witchcraft? Like, what?
I don't know. I think maybe that was another one of the eerie little quirks of her being an old lady trying to creep people out.
Yeah. Maybe.
I prefer to drink from a bowl.
It's so weird. So,
I mean, even Marcus's husband was a little weirded out.
Yeah, that, and I think that's an important part of the scene. So she apologizes, and she immediately acknowledges the fact that she manipulated her way into the home to talk to them about Alex's parents being okay, right? She starts coughing and playing up the fact that she needs a drink of water because that was her entire reason for being in the house, even though she kind of admitted that she wasn't there for a drink of water because she was going to collapse. She wanted to talk about the parents, and Marcus didn't want to do that on his day off. But she doesn't care. She needs to get Marcus under her control. So she starts coughing, and Marcus's husband's like, "Oh, get her a glass." So Marcus reaches into the cupboard to grab a glass. And this is my favorite part. She interrupts him and asks for a bowl, which, why would someone drink water out of a bowl? It's so unwieldy. But they don't question it because she just said, "Well, I'm just eccentric." And they're like, "Okay, you are weird."
Yeah, she passes it off. She uses that as...
She never explains it. She just said, "I don't even try to rationalize it anymore."
Yeah.
And they're willing to oblige her because it's not like a difficult request to give somebody a bowl. So she manipulates the contract of politeness. When you meet a stranger and they haven't done anything to you, you should be polite to them, right? There's no reason to be like, "Gladys, you can't have a bowl. You barged your way into our house." They're too afraid to be rude. At least Marcus's husband's Terry. He is too afraid to be rude to this poor old lady. She has manipulated his kindness and his politeness. So, anyway, she goes on her spiel about how the parents are ill, but they will stop by Monday. And she starts asking if the authorities have been notified. And Marcus is like not having it. He is suspicious now. He tells her to leave. She reiterates again about, "You haven't told the authorities." And I think that's when the scene flips and you realize Gladys is dangerous. We don't know at this scene that Gladys is dangerous yet. We don't know what she's capable of or what she's doing because we don't know her game. We're just in the same space as Marcus and his husband are, right?
Until the scissors come out.
What?
Until those scissors come out, I started to be like, "Oh God."
When she said, "You haven't told the authorities," I was like, "Oh, they're screwed. They're screwed."
And then the scissors come out, like I said.
Yeah, the scissors and the hair, you're like, "Oh, shit."
Yep, pretty much.
Okay, where was I? So he clocks the ribbons from his office. I don't know if you saw that, but when she was in the principal's office, she looks over at the ribbons that are aligning the wall.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was about.
She stole them to do her spells.
Oh, I didn't.
She was wrapping it around the little stick.
Right.
She pulls a stick out. Who keeps a stick with them and starts playing with it like while you're talking? And then she cuts. It was the hand cutting. I think that really Marcus starts getting really nervous. Says to call 911. Actually, no, that happened after the haircutting scene. Marcus realizes something is very wrong, but he's so anxious and doesn't know like what's happening. He is confused. She says it was an accident. She's like, "Well,"
she's continuing to do it while she says it.
She's still lying. She's like, "Oh, it was an accident." Like, no, you like literally cut that
right in front of them.
Yep. Starts rubbing her blood all over her stick, practicing her blood magic. Right.
At this point, I think they just know she's unwell and that she needs to get help.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like it's sort of like an addict, right? Like, you don't necessarily know someone's addiction until you see them up close, and they're just like smoking meth in front of you.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of is sort of a good parallel to what the movie is about, which is about addiction. Was like alarmed. Also, another thing about Gladys,
cutting itself is an addiction, so
yeah. I think Gladys herself she represents addiction. She is like alcohol or a vice, like a drug. And she looks and feels like she's not dangerous, like alcohol, right? I'm just going to take a drink right now. because I'm sad or whatever, or I'm stressed out. I just need something to take the stress off. And then it becomes a habit. And it's too late by the time that you realize that. And I feel like she sneaks up on people kind of how addiction does.
Especially like heroin or something. It's like one shot and you're done.
I don't know if it takes that many times, but I heard that yes, it can be something.
It's
that,
like snake venom, pretty much. Yeah. It's pretty bad. Not
So-
that I would know because I don't, but
yeah,
I do know that like with addiction, it's a slippery slope. I would say.
yeah. Like you don't realize you're addicted until it's too late, and you can't get out of it. You're stuck in that cycle, sort of like how James was. So now it's too obvious for them to really get out of it. Marcus tries to call 911, but she already has him under her control because she has his ribbon. She rings the bell, and he freezes. And then she cuts Harry's hair, and Marcus attacks him. We're not going to get too far into that.
No, I can't do that. No.
I feel like that scene was way too gratuitous.
It was unnecessary. There was too much of it and way too overdone.
Yeah, they didn't need to show the gore. I don't feel like that's necessary. I really don't like that.
Well, when somebody's dead, you don't need to go for 5 more minutes. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was to illustrate that she completely had control over him, and until she told him basically to stop, he would keep going because that was his.
We're done. I can't.
Okay. Okay, so Marcus runs off to go attack Justine. She wraps Justine's hair around the stick, and that's when we see Justine, and now her and Archer have bonded over the fact that they kind of were through this traumatic situation together with Marcus. They talk about Marcus's behavior, and Archer points out that the children all ran the same way, and he shows they were running to this point. She said, that's Alex's house. So now they're going to go to Alex's house. These two characters have finally started talking to each other and realized where the other one is coming from and put their information that they had together rather than fighting each other, which I think was a really important part of the movie.
I want to backtrack for a second.
Yeah.
Where were the cops in this scene? I mean, like, she's running through an entire store screaming for help. Even before that, at the gas pump, at the gas station. Like, I mean, like, what's going on?
The gas station attendant was like, get out of my store.
Yes, exactly. Like, in what world would that have happened?
I feel like it's just a commentary on how selfish people are. They only really are out for themselves, and nobody tried to help Justine except for Archer.
And that was pretty sad and scary.
And her friend is a cop. You know, he's worrying about he's selfish and worrying about his shit.
Yeah, it's yeah.
No one's really looking out for each other in this movie except for some of the main characters like Archer and Justine. Okay, so at the beginning, I guess, and with the exception Marcus is he's trying to do his best to look out for the kids, but he also has constraints within the system that he's in. That's kind of my takeaway from Marcus. Okay, so now we're at Alex. So
this is where things start to tie into a ribbon and just cleanly make a lot more sense.
Yep, this is the climax, I want to say. So, at the beginning of Alex's chapter, they're learning about parasites. Parasites coming up again. Clearly a nod to how our Queen Gladys operates. And we also learn that one of the main bullies that Alex is bullied by is Matthew. He picks on Alex constantly. That day, Alex's dad picks him up from school and tells him that Aunt Gladys will be staying with them. And then he comes home. His mom wants him to clean up the room. That night, we see Aunt Gladys come to stay with them. When we first see her, she's much weaker than when we saw her at Marcus's house. She needs the dad's help to get into the home. She has that tree, which is what she uses for witchcraft. And when Alex peeks into her room, she looks really gross and like sickly. Like she looks really bad. Like she looks like she's about to die, you know?
Yeah. Do we think she has cancer or something?
No, I think she's been using people's life force to sustain herself beyond her normal age because she mentions consumption, which is a very old term for tuberculosis. I think she's much older than she appears. I don't think she's...
So she's robbing youth from people.
Yep. I don't think she's actually... Aunt Gladys is actually the mom's sister. I think she's her great aunt.
Interesting.
It's not really ever like clear, like put out plainly what her exact relation is because there's some contradictions here. So we hear the parents are arguing about Aunt Gladys. A few things I noted, they hadn't seen her in 15 years and she didn't come to their wedding. Alex's grandma would help Gladys when she was having a hard time, so Alex's mom wants to do the same thing. She has an obligation to Aunt Gladys because she's family. Kind of how a lot of people will take in someone who is an addict because they're family and they will put up with their bullshit, basically.
And they also talk about, like, the husband wants, her to go somewhere else, but
Yeah.
there isn't really family anywhere else to take care of her.
Yep, they're the last, they're the last stop where she has to be put out in the street, and they care about her because she's family. They don't really know her, but because they share blood, they have an obligation.
Yeah.
So on the way to school, Alex asks his dad how long Gladys will stay, and the dad says until she gets better. But I feel like when he says that she's not going to be there any longer than a month, he thinks that Gladys is dying, like of cancer, like you said. He tells Alex he'll pick him up for school, which it never ends up happening. At school, we see again that Alex is being bullied by Matthew after he throws a pencil at him, and he is punished by Justine. After school, Alex's dad doesn't kid him. A teacher notices this and offers him a ride home, but Alex doesn't want it. He's independent. He walks home on his own. He comes home to find Alex comes home to find that his parents are acting strangely. They're just sitting at the dinner table, answering questions with like a flat affect, like a zombie. And he knows something's wrong. Something is off. And here comes Gladys. She's a lot more lively and awake than she was previously. She's wearing her wig. I don't think she had makeup on in the scene yet. But she starts gushing over him like, oh, I haven't seen you since you were a baby, which contradicts what the dad said about them not seeing her in 15 years, because Alex can be more than like 8? I forget how old third graders are.
There's a couple things to say about Alex I would weigh in on.
Yeah.
One is he's got great survival skills.
Yeah.
In body language alone, he knew something was wrong with his parents.
Yep.
And he knew, like, lickety split.
Yep.
He also was uncomfortable with Gladys already. And he turned to her and repetitively asked what was wrong with them.
Yeah, he doesn't take her when she lies to him. You can tell he doesn't believe it like the adults do. They just like let it go. He throws a glass of water in the dad's face, and that pisses Gladys off. She punishes him for that.
See, he wants them to snap out of it. For his age, he's really, really intelligent, I would say.
This kid is he's very observant. In the morning, Gladys is sitting at the table with their parents. She tells them they're just resting and tells people that they're not allowed to talk about what happened. She starts performing the same spell we saw her perform on Marcus and tells Alex to watch. So he learns exactly how her witchcraft operates, the rules of how you can control somebody that's already under your spell. She makes them hurt themselves in front of him and tells him if he tells anyone, then she can make his parents do whatever she wants. That's coercive control. She has coercive control over his parents. So it kind of goes through like a montage. Alex goes to school. He comes into her room. She says, no talking, but you need to feed your parents. There's soup. That's where the cans of soup came in. He goes to school, goes home, buys soup, feeds his parents. And I took this as he's being parentified by his parents' addiction, by Gladys's control.
Yeah, and another thing to be said is that, like, he doesn't cut his losses thinking, like, he can't save them. He really, he cares about his parents enough that even risking his own life when he could possibly run. Yeah, he cares deeply about his parents, and he just wants Gladys gone because he wants them back. It's really he's holding on to that hope, yeah. Yeah. So he comes home again and he finds Gladys is laying in her room. She's sick. And he starts asking her questions, and she says, well, maybe you could bring an object from each of your classmates to me. That'll make me feel better. And he doesn't understand the logic of that. But Gladys doesn't explain. She makes a deal with him that if she gets better, she would go home. And that's what he wants most in the world. She uses that to manipulate him. So when he goes to school the next day, he starts gathering things from his classmates. And as he's ripping off name tags of all the cubbies, Justine notices and finds his behavior odd
and starts trying to get him to open up, but he refuses.
See, this was a turning point for me. With Justine, I didn't necessarily hate her throughout the
Yeah.
film, but this is where I really had a lot of respect for her.
Yeah.
She noticed a difference in his behavior. She mentioned it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm here if you need me. She didn't push, but she reached out and let him know that he had somebody in his corner.
But she doesn't know exactly what's going on
No,
to
she
know,
doesn't.
like, hey, your aunt is an evil witch and it's okay.
But how many of us wish we had teachers like that growing
Exactly.
up? So,
But he doesn't take her up on the offer. And if he had, maybe things would have been different. And I think that this also is, it's a metaphor for something, what he does with his classmates. They're all bullying him. He doesn't like his classmates, right?
but he doesn't hate them.
He doesn't like them, but he doesn't hate them. He drops the objects off on Gladys's door so she can perform the spell. And that's when the kids all run into his home. And he's standing by the door with her, and I think he realizes at that point what he's done. What he has doomed his classmates to, and that there's no going back now. And it sort of reminded me of a school shooting. Like, his parents are ignoring him, they're parentifying him, and all he wants in the world is his parents to notice him again and go back. So if he gets rid of Gladys, he'll have his life back again, right?
But
So
he
he's
keeps
willing
spiraling deeper into the net that she's casting.
He's willing to harm his classmates to get that objective.
But I don't think he realizes how much harm he could be causing.
Yeah, he doesn't understand that because he doesn't know how witchcraft works, really. He did, I guess he does because she did explain it to him, but he just wants his parents back.
Yeah.
He cares about them more.
And he's a kid, he doesn't understand consequences the way,
True.
I don't know. The other thing I want to weigh in on is when he's feeding them soup later, because he's in charge of all these kids at some point in the basement.
Yeah.
What was the name of the kid who was bullied that was Archer's son?
Matthew,
who was bullying him. When he feeds him, he makes sure he doesn't have any soup on his face. He scrapes it off. Like the level of care he goes, whether it's misplaced guilt or it's care, but like that kid bullied him and he's caring for him now. And he's doing it genuinely, not like, oh, you can have soup all over your face.
Yeah, so I kind of wonder if that's still like a metaphor for a school shooting. Like,
yeah,
he did some. I mean, he still is a child. You're right. Like, he does not think about consequences. But that's just kind of how I took the spell. Metaphor
like a
was.
trade for the kids for his parents. I mean,
Yeah, and a lot of kids act out to get their parents who are neglecting them to notice them again. So now the investigation starts. So Gladys tells Alex that there are going to be people coming to the house. We hear Gladys explaining to the police that the father, Stephen, had a stroke and she's there taking care of the family. They clean the house up, get ready for visitors. The detectives come and she manipulates them like she manipulates everyone else. They don't notice anything off.
Well, technically, they do make a comment.
Yeah.
That he's really tired or something?
I think
really
they
quiet.
Say, yeah.
Like he's doing the best he can, but he's almost catatonic at some points.
Yeah, he's sort of watching them from afar, and they do clock that, but there's not really anything they can do.
No, they just kind of make a passing joke.
Yep. So Alex comes home and he notices Paul's cruiser, which brings us to the end of Paul's chapter when he goes to the house. But Paul is in their house. He has been taken over by Gladys. He is one of her zombies now. And
this was after getting 3 needles to the face and chasing down.
Paul really got ran through
like
the ringer on this. She said, don't step over the salt. She has the parents standing outside the door, and she said that they're going to be leaving now. They're moving. Because people have noticed her presence is off. So outside, Justine and Archer are deciding what they want to do. Paul comes out of the house. I think this was like kind of, there's like some continuity error because Paul comes outside the house for some reason, and that's what gets them to go in.
I think he beckons them. I think she wants to draw him in.
Maybe. And then they go inside the house, and Paul's just standing there again. Justine steps over the salt, which causes Paul and James to attack her. And upstairs, Alex does the same thing, and his parents attack him. This scene was really hard to watch, where Justine kills Paul with his own gun, but she also saves Archer's life by killing James. So there's just a lot of people like dying in the wake of Gladys controlling them, and it's not really their fault that they ended up getting killed. And in the basement, Archer starts trying to find his kid. And I did notice that the two kids he grabs, there's black children, and I didn't really notice them having much of a part in any of the movie other than them just being in the basement.
Yeah, for like 5 seconds.
Yep. There was this movie was very white, except for I guess Marcus and the guy at the beginning. They weren't really named, so I don't really count that. So Alex has been paying attention very carefully. He grabs a stick from Gladys's tree and her wig, and gets one of her real hairs. He wraps it around the stick, and while he's performing that witchcraft spell, Archer attacks Justine because he is now under Gladys's spell. But once he snaps the stick and the kids all leave to start chasing her, this scene was so funny to me, her running through the houses screaming.
When she was in the basement scene, the scene where she pops out.
Oh, that's scary.
Kids, that startled the crap out of me. That was bad.
She was so creepy in that scene. But then when she starts like running through the houses, just screaming like, "Oh God!" That was hilarious.
Old lady with supernatural speed.
Yeah. And anyways, the kids kill her. Archer is no longer under her spell, but
also go back. That was another really unnecessary death.
Yeah, I know.
She needed to go, but not that far.
Yeah, I think these nude horror movies, they really take the gore too far, and I just don't feel like that's scary. It's just gross. You wouldn't
and I hate it. It's gross.
You would not like Hereditary, and you would not like Midsommar.
I will not watch either then. Thanks for the heads up.
I love both of those movies, but there's so much gore in them.
No, thank you. I
there's
like
a blood eagle.
Scary movies without that.
Okay, we'll do V for Vendetta next.
Yes, that's not a scary movie. It's a good movie though.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
One of the best.
So,
can we just sidebar? Why does Natalie Portman have to cry for 5 minutes in every film? I will come back to that next time.
I will be watching for that now.
You're welcome.
You're right. She cries in Star Wars. Okay.
You're welcome.
Back on track. In a voiceover, we learn that Alex was sent to a different aunt, but his parents are still being fed soup. Meaning they never recovered from Alex's spell, but Archer recovers immediately because he wasn't under it for very long. And then all the kids slowly start recovering. And I guess it's kind of commentary on how addiction, when you start getting better, if you're addicted longer, it can take longer to recover.
Yeah, at the end of the film, it said that, and some of them have started to speak again. It's like, just started to speak.
Yeah, they were under it for what, like a month?
Yeah.
In her basement?
It's a slow progression.
Yeah. So what did you think of the movie? Would you watch it again? What would you do differently?
I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it enough to watch it again, if that makes sense. There was good parts, and there was a lot of parts I did not like. I did not like the gore. I did not like the lack of diversity. I did not like Paul whatsoever. He was an asshole. I liked the witch aspect.
Yeah,
I really liked what they had going on with that. There's not many witch films that I've seen out there. Maybe there are a lot out there, but I haven't seen many.
I think
so. That was nice.
Like, for instance, the movie Witches, I think it handles it very differently. That was a very imaginative movie, but what I didn't like about Witches is that they're just these bitchy old women, not old, I guess, bitchy women that hate children. That's it. That's their motivation, is they hate children, they want to turn them into mice.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of like, witches are what's called a folk devil, and it's somebody you blame for the ills of society or if you're in society. So, like, childless old women that are eccentric, that live alone, are often somebody that we look at with suspicion, right? And that's kind of who Gladys is, but I really think they added a lot to Gladys's character. She was a real character. Like, she was an interesting character.
She was dimensional.
Exactly. And I really enjoyed her character. She was evil, but she was fun. She
was a fun villain.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think that I will definitely say I did hate that one of the few deaths they put in there was of a minority. I don't understand why so many films have to kill off minorities the way they do.
That happens a lot.
It's always the most gruesome death in the whole entire freaking film, and I don't like that. It has to be like, I don't know. I don't know why people do that. Why that happens. Sorry.
They probably just don't consider it.
And it's inconsiderate. So, yeah.
They might not consider it. I don't know much about the director of this movie. I do know that he meant it to be a metaphor for alcoholism and being a child in an alcoholic family, and I really got that from like when Alex's parents were just like turned into monsters trying to attack him. Like at one point they were caring, loving parents, and now they want to kill him. And that's kind of how it feels as a child to live with an alcoholic.
Well, even before that, there was the middle step where they were catatonic on the sofa all the time.
Yeah, either they're catatonic and they're not taking care of him, or they're trying to kill him, which is really just heartbreaking. And the effect that that has on society at large, that it affected the entire town because nobody was noticing what Alex was going through.
So for you, would you watch it again?
I watched it, actually had to watch it twice, so a third time? Maybe not. I think I got everything I needed to out of this movie by watching it. That's because
you got a memory like a steel trap.
I mean, I watched it twice so that I could make sure I had questions that I wanted to go back and answer. So my second watch through is more like fast forwarding and watching certain scenes again so I could write my script. So the next movie we decided to do is V for Vendetta. And we're going to try to make this a monthly podcast. So tune in next month. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yay, we're done.